trust the experience of the Storm 5 weather team. There is no safer place in the storm.
From Arlington National Cemetery near Washington and all across the country, Americans pause today to measure the price of freedom and to remember those who have died in America's wars. It was a tragic day for those of us at CBS News because we learned that two of our own, cameraman Paul Douglas and soundman James Brolin, were killed today, and correspondent Kimberly Dozier was critically wounded in Iraq. I'm Bob Schieffer. We'll begin there tonight, and we'll have these stories.
I'm Barry Peters. Help is starting to arrive for earthquake victims in Indonesia, but the rescue effort is overwhelming.
Remembering the soldiers who never came home, Americans buried on the battlefields of Europe. I'm Richard Roth in Flanders Field.
This is the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.
Good evening. Americans remembered those who died in defense of this country today. The president participated in ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery, and there were parades and speeches and remembrances from one coast to the other. In Iraq, there was no holiday from war. A wave of bombings left scores dead and wounded. It was one of those blasts that left a CBS News camera crew dead and one of our correspondents critically wounded. We'll begin our coverage with national security correspondent David Martin.
Firefighters extinguished the flames of a demolished Humvee, but the deadly damage has already been done. 4 people killed by a car bomb. CBS News cameraman Paul Douglas, soundman James Brolin, a still unidentified American soldier, and an Iraqi translator. 3 more severely wounded, including correspondent Kimberly Dozier. It happened in a neighborhood of Baghdad near the city center, which had been the scene of 2 other deadly explosions just the day before. Dozier and her camera crew set out with soldiers from the 4th Infantry Division to do a story showing that Memorial Day was just like any other day in the war. They were riding in an armored Humvee, and according to Baghdad bureau producer Agnes Rayo, they were wearing protective gear.
Every time we go out with the U.S. military here, we are required to wear flak jackets, helmets, and eye protection glasses.
Shortly after they set out, the soldiers and the CBS News crew got out of their Humvees to inspect an Iraqi checkpoint. That's when the car bomb went off. Douglas and Brolin died there in the street. Dozier was medevaced to the emergency room in the green zone just a mile away.
She was hit pretty badly to her lower body, her legs, and I believe she was received a shrapnel wound to her head.
All 3, Douglas, Brolin, and Dozier, had years of experience reporting in war zones. That 3 such combat-savvy journalists could fall victim to a car bomb demonstrates why so-called improvised explosive devices have killed and maimed so many. The explosion that hit the CBS News team was not the only or even the deadliest blast to go off in Iraq on this Memorial Day. It was one of 8 that killed at least 33 people, most of them Iraqis. Kimberly has been moved to a second hospital north of Baghdad where she underwent more surgery. Doctors are keeping her sedated and on a respirator, but they say she's in much better shape than when she came in. As soon as it's safe to move her, she will leave Iraq the same way so many wounded soldiers have, aboard a U.S. military transport plane to a hospital in Germany. Bob?
David, there was one report that she had sustained some sort of head injury. That's always a scary thing to hear. Any word on that?
Fortunately, Bob, doctors successfully removed the shrapnel from her head, and it did not penetrate her brain, so that does not appear to be life-threatening. The serious injuries are to her lower body.
Okay, well, thanks, Dave. Thank you. U.S. Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad visited Kimberly at the hospital and praised the CBS News team as, quote, brave journalists who risked their lives to tell the story of a courageous people. No one knows their story better than our colleague, CBS News correspondent Mark Phillips of our London bureau.
It was Paul's smile, the one that never seemed to leave his face no matter what horror he was witnessing. And from Bosnia to Afghanistan, from Rwanda to the Palestinian territories to Iraq, there were few horrors of recent history that Paul Douglas had not witnessed. Paul was one of those people you wanted around when things got dicey. He could charm his way through hostile country. He could diffuse the belligerent tension at an armed roadblock. He could get the reluctant to tell you their story. Paul could disarm anyone with his good-natured ways, given the chance. Today, he had no chance. Paul Douglas was 48 years old when his luck ran out on a Baghdad street. He leaves a wife, 2 daughters, 3 grandchildren, and an elderly mother behind.
Hello.
James Brolin was the one who told the jokes, the one who could make you chuckle before you went on the air, the one who could make the stress of an embed with the military more bearable, the one who could beat you to a pulp during those downtime games of Scrabble.
Yeah, you're very low.
James, too, was a frequent visitor to dangerous places. A former soldier in the British Army, he was part of a CBS News team that won a prestigious Overseas Press Club award for its coverage of the Pakistani earthquake. He could make even the famous laugh, cracking up George Clooney, who he was said to resemble, by telling the actor before an interview that meeting him was just like looking in the mirror. James Brolin was 42 and leaves a wife and 2 teenage children.
They move from house to house.
Kimberly Dozier has had a drive like few others to be in the middle of the biggest story around and has brought that most precious of all commodities to them, a sense of humanity.
My Arabic is simple.
For her, not just the movements of armies, but the stories of people were at the heart of events. She had sent a message to CBS before leaving on that patrol today, saying she was working on a story about a serviceman who'd been wounded but insisted on returning to Iraq. She called it a kind of fighting on in the memory of those who have fallen story. Now Kimberly's fighting for her life, a battle Paul and James have lost.
Our chief foreign correspondent, Lara Logan, has covered the war in Iraq with Kimberly and Paul and James over the last 3 years. I spoke with her earlier from Johannesburg, South Africa. Lara, every time a reporter, every time a soldier goes out into the field and leaves headquarters, in the back of their minds is always the possibility that something like this could happen. What makes you go?
I think for most reporters, they go out and do these stories because they believe in it. They believe that this is what they should be doing. They believe in telling the stories and telling the truth about what they see.
I think it also underlines, Lara, something that you know very well, and that is there really are no safe places in Iraq. They were very close to where they sleep each night, were they not?
They were not more than about 20 minutes from the hotel when this happened. They had barely had time to say hello to the unit that they were with when they were filming. They took every precaution that they possibly could, as we all do when we go out there. But there's a moment when these things happen when it really doesn't make any difference.
I guess if there's any good news that we can talk about tonight, it is that the American military's medical attention is the best in the world.
There are many soldiers and many people who are alive today because of their assistance, and that is something that I know that Kimberly herself would be very grateful for, the fact that she's in the hands of people who care and who have incredible expertise. And I have been flooded with emails from soldiers in Baghdad tonight about how they feel about this, and the response from the military and from the army has been quite overwhelming.
Thank you very much, Lara. There is no more dangerous job in journalism than covering a war, but Iraq has been especially deadly for reporters from around the world, including the 2 deaths today. 71 journalists have now been killed in the Iraq War. Memorial Day is a bittersweet holiday, combining solemn salutes to Americans who served and died in war with picnics and barbecues celebrating the beginning of summer. But with U.S. forces fighting 2 wars and casualties mounting every day, it's only fitting that tonight we focus on what the day is meant to symbolize. Here's Bob Orr.
As troops paraded in the nation's capital, the names of 4 soldiers recently determined to have died of war injuries were added to the thousands etched in the granite of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
It's a satisfying feeling that your brother, your family member, is coming to a place where he's with his brothers and sisters who sacrificed also.
More recent losses were remembered in Ohio, where Lima Company marched in memory of its 23 Marines killed in Iraq. And in Indiana, where family and friends honored a young soldier who died in the war just 5 months ago.
The best way to pay respect is to value why a sacrifice was made.
At Arlington National Cemetery, President Bush laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns and used the Memorial Day ceremony to reaffirm his Iraq policy.
Our nation mourns the loss of our men and women in uniform. We will honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives, by defeating the terrorists, by advancing the cause of liberty, and by laying the foundation of peace for a generation of young Americans.
Veterans and their families cheered the president's remarks, but the country is increasingly divided over the war.
Recent polls show that more than half of Americans questioned believe it was a mistake for the U.S. to invade Iraq, and less than a third approve of the president's handling of the war.
Still, this day was not about politics. From a flyover by World War II fighters in Chicago, to Houston, where families visited graves in the rain, to Atlanta, where baseball paused and heads were bowed. In a time of war, an uneasy nation honored its dead. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Memorial Day is marked in many different ways across the country, and some of the more unusual observances were in California today, a state which has suffered some of the heaviest losses in this current war. Here's Sandra Hughes.
Venice Beach, California is known for celebrating the non-traditional. But on Memorial Day, even Muscle Beach takes on a different tone.
A time to remember that people have and still are giving their lives for our freedom.
Being out here in the sun and having a great time, with our family is something that a lot of people around the world can enjoy.
Today, bodybuilders shared the stage as the Army inducted 16 of its newest soldiers.
So help me God.
Including these sisters inducted together. One wants to go to Iraq, the other?
I rather would not go, but if I have to go, then I would go, obviously.
Farther up the beach in Santa Monica, a memorial to the almost 2,500 American lives lost in Iraq. California suffered more of those casualties than any other state. Those losses remembered in a ceremony at the National Cemetery nearby.
And it is the courage and the character of the American fighting men and women that keeps our country the shining light of freedom.
One of those shining lights, Army Sergeant Rodrigo Martinez Ruiz, killed in Iraq 2 years ago.
And now it's different now. Like, Memorial Day is actually what it means on Memorial Day, to remember my brother now.
The war wasn't too far from many people's minds today, even here.
But I think of the freedoms and the things that we're able to enjoy today based on the lives of those who have already given, so we could have our freedom preserved here.
With roughly 30,000 troops awaiting deployment to Iraq this year, the fight to preserve that freedom seems far from finished. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Venice Beach, California.
And next on the CBS Evening News, the death toll is more than 5,000 in Indonesia's earthquake and more than 200,000 homeless. How countries like America are helping the victims next.
He volunteered.
We were drafted. She enlisted.
And off we went to Asia, to Europe.
The Gulf. To do our duty.
Serve our country. We were buddies.
Shipmates. Best of friends.
I'll never forget his courage.
Her dedication.
The way he made you laugh. And I'll remember him.
Remember her.
I'll remember them. Always.
Hello? Remember me? I'm Digger, the dermatophyte, your nail infection. You may have tried to get me with these over-the-counter surface treatments, but I live deep under your nails. I made myself at home down here, and I'm not leaving. I may even spread out to other nails. I mean, would you look at this view?
If you have thick discolor or flaky nails, over-the-counter surface treatments might not reach the infection. That's why you should ask your doctor about prescription-only Lamisil tablets. Unlike surface treatments, Lamisil is a pill that works through the bloodstream to target and attack the infection at its source, under the nail. In fact, you may start to see clearer, healthier nails in just 3 months. Lamisil isn't for people with liver or kidney problems. In rare cases, serious side effects have occurred in the liver and skin. Your doctor may do a simple blood test. Tell your doctor about other medicines you take or if you have nausea, vomiting, appetite loss, skin yellowing, or rash. Ask your doctor about Lamisil. Get your nail infection where it grows.
Some things men don't want to talk about.
Like prostate problems. But I learned 1 in 3 men will have them. So I switched to One-A-Day Men's.
A complete multivitamin plus lycopene, which Harvard studies suggest may help prostate health.
Some things are healthy to talk about.
One-A-Day Men's.
Well, I had been using Sensodyne toothpaste, and I switched over to Orajel Tooth Desensitizer, and I put it on just one time, and it lasted through the whole month. I had no pain whatsoever.
Orajel. Swab it on. Sensitivity gone.
It was like a miracle.
You can be a very knowledgeable pharmacist, but if you don't have good people skills, I care if somebody's sick or if somebody's hurting because they've lost a loved one. I want them to feel at home at my pharmacy. I want them to feel that they can rely on me. That's important to me. It's not about how much money I make or am I going to do better than someone else. It's not about that at all. It's about who you're going to save. My name is Melva McGinnis. I'm a CVS pharmacist.
Indonesia's official death toll from Saturday's earthquake topped 5,000 today, with another 200,000 people left homeless and international aid just beginning to arrive. The powerful quake struck the island of Java, the same region threatened by a volcano that could erupt at any time. Here's Barry Peterson.
Finally, the flow of help is starting. A nearby airport reopened and supplies are getting in. It's just a trickle, but in this place, every little bit extra will mean lives saved. And aid is finally getting to people desperate for food and clean water. I'm getting food for my whole village, says this man. This is the first help we've received. There is still time for miracles, for the trapped to be found alive and saved, but time is running out, and so is hope. Stunned and shocked, drenched by torrential rains, somehow the survivors hang on. Many are living in temporary shelters, sometimes nothing more than sheets of plastic because their homes were destroyed or badly damaged. The biggest concern is for the thousands of injured. Hospitals quickly exhausted medicine and blood for transfusions. Only the lucky few even got a bed. And, says the country's president who toured the area, foreign aid will soon arrive, including $2.5 million from the United States.
In my conversation with other world leaders, they are committed to helping Indonesia in this time of difficulties.
Sadly, Indonesia is no stranger to this kind of tragedy. A year and a half ago, an earthquake triggered the Asian tsunami that left more than 160,000 dead or missing just in Indonesia. Only a few months later, a massive quake killed thousands more in a different area. And one of Indonesia's 76 volcanoes, this one near the area of Saturday's earthquake, is simmering again. But experts say the recent series of events is not unusual. Indonesia's history is full of cataclysm caused by volcanoes and earthquakes. The only thing different is that nowadays there are so many more people living in this country. That means when catastrophe hits, there are so many more lives lost. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Beijing.
A curfew is in effect in Afghanistan's capital tonight after riots triggered by a traffic accident involving a U.S. Army truck. Rioters in Kabul threw stones at U.S. troops after the accident killed an Afghan civilian. Security forces opened fire and at least 8 people were killed. Rioters also trashed offices of CARE and other aid agencies. In southern Afghanistan, a U.S. airstrike killed as many as 50 Taliban fighters near Kandahar, and 5 Canadian soldiers were wounded in a firefight that killed half a dozen militants. The U.S. military said today that a hunger strike by inmates at the Guantanamo Bay prison in Cuba has grown from 3 prisoners to 75. 4 of the strikers are being force-fed, including the 3 who started the protest. Coming up, we say we never forget our fallen heroes. A faraway battlefield called Flanders Field proves it 90 years later.
Dr. Robert Jarvik, inventor of the artificial heart.
The average heart beats 2 billion times. The heart is amazing.
but high cholesterol can lead to heart disease. Lipitor can help. When diet and exercise aren't enough, adding Lipitor significantly lowers bad cholesterol, 39 to 60%. If you have several common risk factors for heart disease, Lipitor is clinically proven to reduce your risk of heart attack. And more cardiologists surveyed said they'd prescribe Lipitor for their own families than any other cholesterol-lowering brand. Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. You need simple blood tests to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor if you are taking other medications or if you have any muscle pain or weakness. They may be a sign of a rare but serious side effect. Lipitor is one of many treatment options to consider with your doctor. It's your heart. Ask if Lipitor is right for you. Visit Lipitor.com for a free trial.
Want to know a secret? For some adults, today's lunch is A3. That's why there's delicious Ensure. Complete balanced nutrition, vitamins, minerals, food energy. If you don't eat right, eat smart. Drink Ensure.
The Brawn Activator's Smart Foil captures hair growing in any direction for a closer shave. And its cleaning center keeps it feeling like new every day. The Brawn Activator, the world's best self-cleaning shaver, guaranteed.
Chevy offers more vehicles with OnStar than any other brand. If your airbag goes off, OnStar can contact help. Hands-free calling means OnStar lets you keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. And with OnStar Vehicle Diagnostics, hundreds of checks are performed on your Chevy every month. And OnStar emails you the results. Chevy has all of this. Not Ford, not Dodge, not Toyota. Chevy with OnStar. That's an American revolution.
Need to do something original this weekend? Why not treat yourself to a taste of Louisville? Log on to gotolouisville.com and create your own weekend getaway. Or check out the one-of-a-kind package starting at $179. Do something original this weekend in Louisville.
When U.S. servicemen and women are killed in Iraq or Afghanistan, their remains are often brought home within days. But it hasn't always been that way. Many lie today in cemeteries all over Europe, including hundreds who fell in World War I and were buried in Belgium's Flanders Field. Here is Richard Roth.
In Flanders Field, between the crosses row on row, it's not poppies today, but roses that mark the places of the dead. Belgian school children have been doing this for generations, learning the Star-Spangled Banner and singing it each Memorial Day in a gesture of gratitude to America and the American soldiers buried here. They died in an age when an American general could say that all America asked for its sacrifice was enough foreign soil in which to bury its dead. Beyond the beaches of Normandy in France, it's a sacrifice measured by the acre. There have been more than 120,000 American soldiers killed who never came home. But just a handful are buried in this tiny corner of Belgium, in America's smallest cemetery in Europe. And yet every May there's a ritual of tribute and tradition. Chris Sims has been choreographing it for more than 30 years, not just to honor the dead.
It does serve a purpose. It has to show to the younger generations that what happened should never happen again, and yet it always does. The history returns.
History here was captured in a poem early in the First World War.
We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields.
368 Americans still lie here on the battlefield where they fell almost 90 years ago. Alex Henley from Oregon is here, and Wendell Ross from Minnesota, and New Yorkers Frank Brinza and Arthur Struck. Robert Percelli is still here too, an Army bugler from North Carolina. It's said the soldiers buried here still serve their country, perpetual symbols of America's willingness to sacrifice. Richard Roth, CBS News, Flanders Field.
Here's to men
to guys who want to take longer drives with fewer pit stops. And here's to Flomax. It's approved to treat male urinary symptoms due to BPH, also called an enlarged prostate. In 1 week, Flomax may help symptoms like going often, going urgently, weak stream, frequently waking up at night to go. Ask your doctor if symptoms are from BPH, not prostate cancer. Common side effects of Flomax are runny nose, dizziness, and decrease in semen. Upon standing, a sudden decrease in blood pressure may occur, rarely resulting in fainting. So when starting Flomax, avoid situations where injury could result. To learn more, call 866-4FLOMAX. Ask your doctor. Flomax could make a difference in 1 week.
You feeling better?
I'm getting there. But I do feel good that we have Aflac.
Glad I asked about it at work.
I'm glad it's helping pay the bills.
Electric bill, house payments, even Michelle's education. Helps with just about any bills our health insurance doesn't cover.
Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Is your relationship in its early years, or are you old pals? Are you close friends in the great indoors, or a family in a full house? Are you living the Purina Catchow way of life? Essential nutrition for each life stage or lifestyle, and access to behaviorists, nutritionists, and vets for a happy, healthy life together. Physical, emotional, complete. That's the Purina Catchow way of life. They warm your heart. Help support theirs with complete nutrition. Purina Catchow Complete Formula.
Waiting for anything. So come on now. Let's go, let's jump right in, screaming to the wind, feed the fire within. I can't ignore this burning in my soul. Come on, baby, let's go.
There's a car company for people like that. Ford. Bold moves.
The Brawn Activator's smart foil captures hair growing in any direction for a closer shave, and its cleaning center keeps it feeling like new every day. The Brawn Activator, the world's best self-cleaning shaver, guaranteed.
Coming up in just moments on News Channel 5 at 6, a near riot in Gallatin raises questions about gang activity. Did police handle things in the best way possible? That story at 6.
Finally, how many times have we said on television the names are being withheld until the next of kin can be notified? So it was on this Memorial Day that those of us here found ourselves on the other end of that message. We were not the notifiers, but those being notified. Today, we understood a little better what so many families and friends of the fallen and the wounded have gone through. This war has taken a heavy toll, including 2,459 American military people who have been killed and more than 18,000 Americans who have been wounded, as well as 71 journalists from around the world who have died. Added together, the statistics are shocking, but days like today are reminders. This is not about numbers. Each of those numbers is a person that others know or love or depend on. We live in an era of reality shows, and we see so much on television that even war can seem artificial. But what we saw today was not a show. It was reality, where the bullets are real and the fallen and the wounded have wives and husbands and mothers and fathers and children. Tonight, our thoughts are with all of those who once got the news that we got today, and especially with the families of Kimberly Dozier, Paul Douglas, and James Brolin. I'm Bob Schieffer. Good night.
This is CBS. A violent day in Iraq kills 2 members of the CBS television crew and seriously injures another. Tonight, the family of wounded correspondent Kimberly Dozier speaks exclusively with News Channel 5.
And on this Memorial Day, the nation stops to remember the veterans who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country.
We've had hot weather over the Mid-South on this Memorial Day. How long will it last? We've got the answer. News Channel 5 at 6 starts now.
Live with Sky 5. From your news and information leader, this is News Channel 5 at 6.
And good evening, everyone. Chris Clark is off tonight. Well, it was a deadly day in Iraq for the U.S. media. 2 members of a CBS News crew covering the war in Iraq were killed and another seriously injured.
CBS News correspondent Kimberly Dozier suffered multiple injuries during an attack this morning. Her photographer and sound man were also killed. Doctors say Dozier is in critical condition at a U.S. military hospital in Baghdad. Photographer Paul Douglas and sound man James Brolin died after their military convoy hit a roadside bomb in Baghdad. Dozier's brother and sister-in-law live here in Middle Tennessee. They got word